Greetings. This is Skyler Saunders seeing. It's this little fun edition with NBA players and rappers as metaphors. What's current? Now, there have been throughout the years people who have compared themselves to NBA players, namely the big homie Jay-Z, who has always compared himself to Jordan, and for obvious reasons. The ability, the popularity, the strength of knowledge about the game itself for both the rapper and the player. But I think there's a lot more players that deserve to be compared to rappers and vice versa. We're in the full swing of things with the NBA playoffs right now, and I think it is time to try to get a hold on what the similarities are between these worlds. So let's get started with Eminem. Who do you think Eminem is? I say he is like Larry Bird. For obvious reasons, they're both white. They both came into an era of an arena where the black man was dominant, and they showed their skills, and they showed how great they are, and in just in a matter of a few years, displayed that they could be great contenders upon the rap world and the professional basketball world. Next, we have Biggie, Notorious B.I.G. I have two players in mind for him. One is Akeem Olajuwon, and the other is Shaquille O'Neal. Now, I have compared Shaq and the, Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon to Christopher Wallace because they're all big men and they all had an imposing presence on the floor and on the microphone. And Olajuwon's two championships were like Biggie's two multi-platinum and diamond selling albums, even though Biggie didn't get to witness the success of Life After Death in full because of his untimely demise, of course. So in Shaq, I just think that he's probably the greatest big man to ever be on the court. He earned the MVP award. He has 4 championship rings and continues to be a dominant part of pop culture, just like Biggie is even in his deceased state. And now I think you can agree with me with this comparison. Drake and LeBron. That's right, LeBron James and Aubrey Drake Graham share a similarity. They're almost like the same person because the way they revolutionized the game. LeBron James, standing over 6 inches, going towards 6'8", 6'9", can play like a point guard, a shooting guard, and a forward, and almost even a center in some regards. He has completely become a phenomenon and has 4 rings to his credit and is looking for more. He's been in the game for 20 plus years, and it seems like he's not going to stop. And like for Drake, both of them, they had high expectations when they first came in their professional settings. For LeBron, he was coming straight out of high school. And similarity to Drake, he was coming out of a situation where he was an actor. He had to prove himself. They both had to prove themselves and show themselves worthy of their titles as one of the greats, if not the greatest, because they put in the work and they showed themselves to be consummate professionals. Both of them could have just had a few years run and collected a few chips and gone on, but they're dedicated to their craft. They love the fact that they have flow, both of them. Drake more literally with his, his in the pocket spoken word kind of flow, and then LeBron's dominant going through the paint and also able to shoot from the perimeter and play great defense and have assists at the same time. And we can't forget about him shattering the scoring title. And that's like so many of Drake's records. He's shattered so many multi-platinum and award winning pieces from Billboard that it seems that he's pretty much on top. It seems like he's one of the best. And that's like with LeBron. Now, Lil Wayne, who do you think Lil Wayne is going to be? I'll give you a moment. I say Lil Wayne is Kobe Bryant. Lil Wayne once said, "I'm the best rapper alive since the best rapper retired." He was patterning himself after Jay-Z, just like Kobe did with Michael Jordan. He was like a reflection. He was like another incarnation of Michael Jordan, but he knew he had to show that he was himself. He won 3 rings with the aid of Shaq and a host of others, and then he won 2 by himself. So it just goes to show you how Kobe was, the late great Kobe was so enamored by Michael Jordan's playing skills that he, made the pattern himself. He tried to say that he, could do the fadeaway, could go in the post with the layup, could dunk, could shoot the 3-pointer, could post up, could strip the ball, could block the ball, and give assists at sometimes. And that's like Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne knew he could build a team. Young Money, the chief among his other rappers were of course Drizzy, Drake, and Nicki Minaj. They have proven to be some of the most successful rap acts in history. And he is kind of like what happened with, players like Paul Gasol and Ron Artest. He cultivated their talents and made teams that were. I'm talking about Kobe. Kobe cultivated their talents and improved his own talents and made it so that he could function properly and win those championships. So Kobe is Lil Wayne. This should be interesting because I was trying to do a toss-up. I was trying to figure out if I should do Too Short, E40, or some others. But I think in the light of, the passing of the great Bill Russell, he deserves somebody that has been in the game for over 30 plus years. And they fit the bill. These West Coast guys, but ironically, they're more like the East Coast Celtic, and great and legend, Bill Russell. Just not based on their abilities necessarily that reflect them, but the fact that the longevity and the amount of championships, the amount of albums that Too Short and E40 and so many others have put out over the decades, that's the draw. That's where the similarities begin. And I think it is possible that there is a connection between, the abilities and the longevity of both of these rappers and this late great basketball player. All right. So I have on my next Pusha T. Who is he? Who is Pusha T? What metaphor have I come up with for Pusha T? Who do you think? He is a part of not just the connection between them because both represent Virginia. Allen Iverson was born in Hampton, Virginia. Pusha T was born in the Bronx, New York, Gun Hill Road, but moved to Virginia Beach and spent his childhood and early adolescence there. But I'd just say that they're both in the same category because Allen Iverson's game was similar to what Pusha T does. He's familiar with and most known for his crossover, just like Pusha T is most known for his rap about crack and selling cocaine and drug dealing and things of that nature. That's like their signature marks. And I think because Iverson was one of the best scorers, he was a volume shooter. That's like Pusha T with his albums. He's been consistently putting out quality material, and it seems like he doesn't have to have a whole lot of features, and he doesn't have to have a whole lot of different people on his albums to boost the product. I say that literally and figuratively. Cameron, Killer Cam from Harlem, New York, USA. He is more like Penny Hardaway. Now I say that because Penny Hardaway never won a championship. Cameron, even though he is one of the most talented rappers ever to even touch a mic, has never appeared on most top 50, top 10, top 20 lists for best rapper. But they both have meme-worthy gifts. Of all the words that Cameron has introduced to the lexicon of hip hop for, slang or something like that, pause, curve, coleslaw, all kinds of different things like that. They're meme worthy. And the same thing goes with Penny Hardaway sneakers. He has some of the most popular sneakers still to date. Second or third only to Michael Jordan and a few others, very few others. Maybe LeBron, maybe before he got dropped, Kyrie Irving. But they both share a similarity because they the Cameron raps and Hardaway played like they were especially talented, but didn't get the credit they deserved. They were either overshadowed by other rappers or other players. When Shaq was on the the Orlando Magic. Now, his companion, pause, his friend, his buddy, his pal, Mace, Murder Mace. He's out in Houston. He couldn't get the job done with the New York Knicks out in Houston, and he was paid, top dollar. I think it was $20 million a year by that organization, and he could barely shoot a 3-pointer. He had 3-point skills, but when it came time for clutch shots, he couldn't bury all of them. He was known for a one clutch shot that won the game before, but after that, he had very little talent or any way of uh, expressing himself on the hardwood. And Mace, he had all the success in the world, and then he turned to become a pastor at Atlanta Church almost 20 plus years ago now. So the hopes and dreams that people had for him to become, consistent and viable rapper were dashed because of his inability to remain a factor within the game. Now he's become, friends again with, Cameron after their, spat or beef or tension that arose in the years following him going from New York to Atlanta. But it seems to me that they both have the wherewithal to be even greater as a team together. Killer and Murder. Killer Cam and Murder Mace. It's like Penny Hardaway and Allen Houston. And of course, I'll be remiss if I didn't get to this one. Blueface is Latrell Sprewell. Latrell Sprewell choked out his coach once upon a time. He's known for that. He was known for being a hothead, for not being able to control his temper, not being able to, finesse the situation and be viable and ready part of the team. And that is kind of what Blueface is. He's very aggressive and he's known for fighting. He's known for, getting in the spats with his girlfriend slash fiance. I don't even know what they are right now. Something or other. But it just seems to me that they have some similarities together, and that if you're going to compare yourself, he should be compared to the Latrell Sprewell, Blueface. Twista is both Pistol Pete Maravich and Wilt Chamberlain. Now, this is the reverse. I had, two. This is the same. This is one rapper and two basketball players as before with Shaq, Olajuwon, and with Biggie. I think that Twista, because he set the record for most syllables, it was beaten, by the way. But at one time, he was the fastest rapper in the world, according to Guinness Book of World Records, and he definitely put down his way of rapping rapid fire and super fast, and at the same time being able to clearly state each and every syllable, and not only that, but construct words and song and lyrics that actually made sense, not just rapping fast just to sound cool or sound fast. He actually had the opportunity to and still has the opportunity to be, quick with the tone and still be able to be a viable rapper. Now, with Pete Maravich, that's the same kind of idea. The way he shot from the hip, that's how I improved Pete. But he definitely had an ideal for being one of the best shooters, best scorers, and best assist makers to ever play the game. And Will Chamberlain, of course, still holds the record for so many points in a game at 100 points. Set back decades ago. The closest to ever came to him was Kobe Bryant with 81 points, but nobody's been able to come close to Wilt the Stilt. LL Cool J. LL Cool J is Jerry West. And I say that because Jerry West is the logo. When you see the NBA logo, you see that anywhere, that's Jerry West. That's a profile of Jerry West dribbling the ball, going to the hoop. And that's like LL Cool J, because very few people, put him in a lot of their top 10 lists. Sometimes he's in the top 20. He's definitely always in the top 50. But and certainly in the top 100. MCs to ever do it. But he laid the groundwork as someone who he laid the groundwork as someone who stood the test of time. He's still relevant. He's going on with his Force tour now. And he's been relevant. He's been a factor and relevant at the same time. And this is going back since the early 80s. This is going way back. So, this is like Jerry West. Jerry West played for the Lakers and won at least one championship and continued on fighting and clawing his way, to be one of the greats of all time. He was one of the top 50 greats and top 75 greats. And so his name is hardly mentioned in contention with, the top 100 for the greatest on a lot of critical lists. He is for the NBA because he's obviously the logo. But even in, barbershops and around the town, you're not going to hear his name being up there within the top 5, top 10, lists. So that's like LL Cool J. A lot of people forget how he set the template for being very aggressive and brash and braggadocious on the microphone, while also being vulnerable with "I Need Love" and different songs directed at women, and that's how he came up into the game. We have Curtis Blow as Dr. J. Dr. J won one ring. He was like a predecessor to, Clyde the Glide Drexler and Michael Jordan and the Human Highlight Reel. And they all coalesced into what he started. He was dunking in games, with passion and power, and he was like a forerunner to that kind of style that Dominique Wilkins and others had championed. So Curtis Blow was like that too. He was a renegade and a revolutionary, and he was one of the starters of what it means to be an MC, to control the microphone with confidence and almost superhuman powers, because you have the microphone in your hand and that's about all you have. You might have a backing band or a DJ, but you're the one controlling the crowd. You're the one giving them call and response and things of that nature. So you have Curtis Blow as Dr. J. All right, this is an interesting one. Tyler, the Creator, is Dennis Rodman. I say that not just because they're, seem like they're weird and out there and kind of goofy on some levels, but because they actually have talent. Rodman in his heyday could be the bruising, harsh, crushing defensive player and offensive player. Even though he had very few scoring, abilities, his rebounding and blocking and stealing abilities on the defensive end couldn't compare to anyone. No one else could compare to him on in his highest level. He was a force to be reckoned with. He took it upon himself to say that he was the worm, the one who could wriggle through and get the balls any way he could. And that's Tyler, the Creator. Tyler, the Creator has built up a myth about himself. He's built up a sense that, who is this guy? What is he about? What is he? He's funny. He's making these jokes. He's full of the lulls. He's got he got this funny way of speaking, and his albums are kind of dark and gruesome and kind of jarring. And then you have these soft chords and these wonderful melodies that go into the mix. And the fact that he won Best Rap Album back to back in the years, Igor and Call Me If You Get Lost, that's extraordinary. That's just like Rodman. He won 5 NBA championships. man for Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. They had squared off before in the late '80s with the when he was on the Detroit Pistons. But then they became a team. The three, the big three: Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman, and they won those rings together. At least I think it was 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken. You have to correct me. But with all the hoopla, around Tyler the Creator, a lot of people don't realize that he's actually a highly skilled MC. He's definitely in top 100, top 200 MCs in the world. And there are thousands of MCs, as we know. He's up there. So those are those two. Next we have Pop Smoke was Patrick Ewing. Now this is no fault on his life, because obviously he didn't have anything to do with him being killed. But Pop Smoke had the opportunity he was poised to be the best in New York. Just like Patrick Ewing was poised to be the best in New York. He had the opportunity with that killer finger roll. And one of the playoff games or the finals, I can't remember which one it was. I'm just going off top of the head here. But he had a crucial role when he missed that shot, when he missed that scoring ability, and it just unraveled from there. And there was nothing to be said really about Patrick Ewing on that level. And it's the same thing with Pop Smoke. Of course, his untimely demise. It's not like he committed suicide or anything, and that he had orchestrated his own death. But he missed the opportunity to be the greatest in New York. He could have been the king of New York had he had lived and seen the day that he was supposed to be the best. So those are those two. Pop Smoke and Patrick Ewing. Tupac was Dwayne Wade, what he is today, and what he was when he was playing. Tupac had such a clarity in his genius to know that he had to show the world that he had multiple faceted personas. He had a way of conveying his message to the people via lyrics about young teen pregnancy, lyrics about his own mother, lyrics about his own demise, his own death, and then couple all that with a couple of party jams like I Get Around, and even the bounciness, even though it has social significance, of Changes. And that's Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade is Tupac because very few people even consider Tupac to be an actual MC to the point where he had the capabilities of using metaphor and similes and imagery and the technical aspects of being an MC. But as a rapper, as an activist, as someone who knew the place and time, he could be number one. And that was kind of like what Dwayne Wade was. He won championships with the Miami Heat. He elevated his game to make sure that, LeBron James won his first championship with him. That's the power of, Dwayne Wade. And also he has a social significance with his, I want to call it a daughter, call it he or she or they or them. His daughter or transgender child. I'm going to be very careful here. but he has a social significance with, challenging people with the LGBTQIA plus community. So I give them that much. Now, skill for skill, pound for pound, it's kind of a weird selection. I know. But at the same time, that's what I thought of, and so I put it down. Giannis Antetokounmpo is, I would say, we'll come back to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Snoop is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And I say that because of the formerly known player, the player formerly known as Lou Alcindor, had such a illustrious career that it spanned, decades, and he kept fighting for his crown. And he had a crown until LeBron shattered it with a scoring title. And that lasted for, decades. It lasted for a long time. And that's like Snoop. Snoop has been able to reinvent himself over and over and over again. He's one of the greatest entrepreneurs, one of the greatest MCs. Never mind, his ability to make a dime, but he conveys a sense of knowing when and where to be and how to be. He changed his name from Snoop Doggy Dogg to Snoop Dogg to Snoop Lion to Todd. And over the course of these many years, he's been a viable and recognizable face within the hip hop community, just like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did when he was playing. Now, we have, for your listening pleasure, Bob Cousy, who's still kicking. He's 94 right now, but he's still kicking. He'll be 95 in August. But Bob Cousy is Dr. Dre. Now, I did another West Coast, East Coast mix and match. Dr. Dre is a person who has cultivated a sense of being both a businessman and an MC. Also, to add on to those two, he's one of the premier producers of all time. One of the greatest producers to ever come out of the womb of hip-hop. And that's what Bob Cousy was. He challenged the game. He invented ways of passing that are still used today. He was the hardwood Houdini to those who know him as the Celtics player. He definitely put down his Mac when it came to playing basketball. And people were arguing and complaining like, oh, they were just some white boys that were too short that didn't really know how to play. No, they were skilled. They actually had some skill to them. They actually had a level of ability that could not be contained just by going through the lane and laying up. You had to be smart on the dribble. You had to know when to pass and know when to shoot, know when to rebound, know when to steal. And Bob Cousy could do all of that, just like Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre knows how to perfect a beat. He knows how to craft a rhyme. He knows how to be a marketer. He knows how to be an entrepreneur. He has the beat by Dre, and that's what is amazing and wonderful. This may come as a surprise to some, and maybe not others, but somewhat to a degree, to an extent. DMX is Ron Artest. Now, I know that may seem like a slight to DMX, but it's actually a compliment because Ron Artest was one of the most dynamic players that if he could have, kept his cool and been a more conscientious player, he could have been great. He was a good player, but he wasn't a great player. DMX is a good rapper, but he wasn't necessarily a great rapper. He was like Tupac in a sense. I always compare them together too, rapper to rapper, because they didn't have the technical skill that was always championed in the hip hop community. So, Ron Artest was like that. If he was a hothead, he had his issues, just like DMX battled with the various drugs and various alcohol components. And so it's like with Ron Artest, he was one of the people at the Palace, the melee at the Detroit Palace. It's mayhem and mischief and things of that nature. And then he turns around and calls himself Meta World Peace. After all of the various run-ins and kind of bizarre and outrageous behavior, he somehow decided to become a person that preached, at least, world peace. And I think that's what DMX was trying to do. Through all the rage and bluster within his rhymes, he wanted to have a sense of peace as well. He wanted to have a sense that everything was going to be okay, even though circumstances said otherwise. Just like his childhood that was so fractured and broken. He just wanted to have a stable and clear-cut view of what life should be. That's DMX and Ron Artest. Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas is Eazy-E. They were both quiet killers. Eazy-E couldn't rap that well. He couldn't rhyme that much. He's not going to be in your top 200, most likely. Hip-hop artists. But he had a style about him that commanded respect. He was one of the few generals in the game that knew how to pick talent and knew how to foster it and complete it with everything from NWA to Bone Thugs and Harmony. With the different aspects of having the game, which Eazy-E has or had at the time, and Isaiah and Thomas had, and when he was playing the game, he cultivated a sense of, let's be bad boys. We're gonna be in the wrecking crew in Detroit for the Pistons. Along with players like Lambeer. He wanted to show that they were no pushovers, that they were, strong arms in the game. And that's what Isaiah Thomas really showed when he showed up on the court. All right, this is interesting because I couldn't think of exactly who I wanted to make this out to be, but the closest person I can think of is Styles P is Tim Duncan. Now, a lot of people say Tim Duncan was a boring player. They call him Mr. Fundamentals. He can pass, shoot, dribble, score. He could do the assists. He could do the rebounds. He could do the blocks. And that was cool. He wasn't doing 360 dunks. He wasn't doing razzle dazzle between the leg, behind the back kind of ways like Iverson did. He just knew the fundamentals, the basics of the game. That was his whole course. That was his whole way of life. And I think that's what Styles P. Styles P could be mistaken for a rapper that had a little bit of charisma, a little bit of, grit at the same time. He has some of the best features. He has a song that will never die, according to, hip hop weed heads, Good Times. As a hip hop standard, especially for the pothead groups. But he basically has the same kind of idea. He can lay down a rhyme, he can flow over a beat, he can show himself that he's ready to be someone on the cusp of greatness, but he's not going to appear on top 200 lists, most likely. Maybe a 200 list, maybe a 200, probably not 100 list, maybe 200 lists, Styles P. That's where he is right now. This is going to surprise a few of you. Who do you think J. Cole is? I'll give you a moment. Now I'll reveal. J. Cole is Reggie Miller. J. Cole has been notorious for not being able to make a party record. All his records, it seems, are either not able to convey a sense of let's go to the club, let's be at this, let's go mess up some commas, mess up a bag. And that's like with Reggie. Reggie didn't, dunk. He didn't do all those between the legs and over the back and around the way and super, dunking skills and stuff like that. He was known for the three-pointer. It's like J. Cole is known for lyricism. And this is no knock. I'm just saying what it appears to be, what it seems like to me. J. Cole has just one lane mainly, and that's lyricism. That's a good thing. He has a strong ability, and he could probably land within the top 100 just based off of his ability to draw lyrics. That's the honest truth. That's the straight dope. He could actually become one of the few people to really discuss what it means to be an MC. Just like Reggie Miller, even though he was ringless, in the era of Jordan, here's another one. He gave this to the Knicks a few, during his career, showing how they choked. But at the same time, it seems like he choked as well. He couldn't get a ring either. Like so many other great players. But that's what J. Cole is. J. Cole has a wonderful shot, just like Reggie Miller. You can't deny that three-pointer. He was a clutch shooter. He was one of the few, predecessors to what Steph Curry was. And that's what he was now. And speaking of Steph Curry, I want you to think about who you think is. I want you to say to the screen, who is Steph Curry as a metaphor for a basketball player? Give you some time. All right, I got to go in. It's Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar has transformed the game of hip-hop, just like Steph Curry has transformed the game of basketball. Steph Curry could dribble first, step back, make a three-pointer, and not think about it over and over and over. Just like Reggie Miller, he could get those 4-point plays like it was nobody's business. He drained the three-pointer and got fouled and go to the line and make it 4 points right there. Out of one play, you get 4 points. Kendrick has multi-platinum albums, has broken the record for a hip-hop tour for $133 million worth of ticket sales. He has won the Pulitzer Prize, and he continues to march on as a high stepper on the arena of hip-hop, in the arena of hip-hop. He's a dynamic kind of rapper because he can make a party record, he can make a serious record, he can make a political and social record, he can make a record just for, sitting around listening in your car while you're driving around. He knows how to do that. And that's like with Steph Curry. He can pass the ball, he can dribble, he can go to the lane and do one of those floaters he does. They're multifaceted, multi-talented. I mean, opposed to other players and rappers who have just one single kind of goal, one single kind of drive, they actually have the ability to take their craft and make it even more real. When you have people like Dirk Nowitzki, he was Mac Miller. He was Mac Miller. Dirk Nowitzki had such a great run, and he won the MVP at least one time. And he had an excellent shot that's immortalized outside, the arena, that shows him with the knee up. His famous knee 3-pointer, or post 2-pointer. And that's what Mac Miller had when he was alive. Another fallen, warrior within the hip hop community. He could give us a funny tale. He could give you a serious ideal within his raps. He could show himself to be someone who had the ability to give himself enough room to be a leading MC. Now, he's not going to show up on top 200, maybe 300, 250 MCs in the world as a ranking system. And if I could just go back, Biggie was also, a forerunner for Rick Ross. And Rick Ross, I think, it could be like Shaq. Rick Ross and Shaq could possibly be paired together as well. But like I said, with Dirk Nowitzki and Mac Miller, they had, the challenge of having, unmelanated skin in an era, of course, where the predominance of the NBA was African American, colored, Negro, whatever, du jour name you want to call this group of people. But they held their own. They definitely could, withstand the defense. Dirk Nowitzki and Mac Miller could withstand, the onslaught of, oh, he's just a white rapper. He just want to get on. Oh, he's just a white basketball player. He just want to get on. He just want to shine, in a black man's game. They went through that hate. They went way past that hate. They blew past it, never even considered it again. And now, Lil Baby is Kawhi Leonard. I say that because they seem to be humble and have humility, which are traits not to have ever, but they're monsters on the mic and on the court. They might seem rather quiet somewhat. They don't seem to, talk too much trash and say they're the greatest, but they both possess the abilities that took them from just being mild mannered, everyday pedestrian people to being men of strong character and ability on the court and on the mic. Kawhi Leonard has at least two rings. He won with the Spurs and he won with the Raptors. Lil Baby was able to break records and become the highest selling artist in any genre during the pandemic. That's something that should be applauded. Their efforts are supposed to be that they are they have the ability to take in whatever comes their way. They're silent assassins. They may not say much off the record or off the mic or off the court or even on the court, but they have within them the sensibility to continue on during the fight. The baby is Walt Frazier. I'm just gonna go off of their drip. Walter Frazier was one of the pimpish kind of super, cool cats that came in with the fly suits on and the blazers and kept it cool like that. And that's like the baby. He has his jewelry, just like a lot of other ones, but he especially has his jewelry and his unique sense of style, all patterned and put down together. And I would say that Walt Frazier, even on the court, was probably one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He knew how to score. He knew how to be one of the best Knickerbockers to ever grace the hardwood. And the baby has his own style and his own lyricism, and it's completely different than someone like J. Cole, which a lot of people say it's Friday and we're definitely not playing any J. Cole. People say that. That's one of the memes that go around the internet. It's a lot of things that goes on, within the realm. And so you have so many people that, try to say, what and whom can be on the top of the Mount Rushmores. What kind of time are there for people that have time for that? And of course, I have to mention Ye. Ye is Magic Johnson. Because in his heyday, not now, I could care less. I don't care about him now. I really don't care what he's doing and what he's going to do unless it's completely revolutionary. And it would have to be such a mea culpa. Look up that term if you get a chance. If you don't know, it would have to be a complete reversal of where he is now. But in his greatness, when he was excellent on the mic and behind the boards, he was like Magic. Magic could score. That's like being on the mic. He could be the MC. But he also knew how to assist. He could pass the ball. And he won 5 championships with the LA Lakers. And that's like with Kanye. He has 4 masterpieces in my estimation. And the way that he mentioned him twice, in different songs, in separate songs, Kanye West or Ye. I'm the artist formerly known as Kanye West, I guess. But Ye, he took Magic's name and put it in his mouth and said that he, not that he was Magic, but he was just comparing him and saying, you can live through anything if Magic made it, and if Magic Johnson got a cure for AIDS, he put that in his mouth, and it's coincidental that he should be on this list as one of the top contenders and one of the best metaphors for each other, because they had such a similar kind of ideal. And off the court and away from the mic, you can't deny it. Wonderful businessmen, great businessmen. They knew how to market themselves. They knew how to give themselves an opportunity to flourish and create more money, to get more pay. And that's why I say that Magic and Ye are supposed to be coupled together as a metaphor. Now, I go to Big Pun, and I say that he was James Worthy. He was underappreciated. Both of them. Underapprciated for their skills. Because you had Kareem, you had Magic for James Worthy, and Big Pun had his own doubts with, he had an idea of saying that he, could still be on the mic, be magical, majestic, monumental on the mic, and still, even with his untimely death, he was one of the greatest MCs. Now, he can definitely be in the top 100 without question. His flow, his lyricism, his comedy, his sense of humor, all tied in, just like James Worthy. James Worthy played heavy defense, was a wizard on the offensive end, and can control the tempo, just like Big Pun could with hip hop. And I'm going to say that Kevin Gates, and notice this is I list hip hop stars just like I list with boxers and sports with just women and just men. Even though they're playing the same sport, even though they're still on the mic, I have to differentiate. I don't say like Nicki Minaj was, Alonzo Mourning or something like that. I can't do that. So this all consists of men. I make a list where I have, females as well. But at this time, I'm just going to, point out the men within the realms of metaphor. When you have somebody like Travis Scott, whose whole career seems to be derailed, and he was at the top. He was, and I would definitely go back and say that Giannis Antetokounmpo and Travis Scott are great metaphorical combinations. They both had such a lock on the culture. I mean, Astroworld was a phenomenon. It was great. His album and the festival. And then, unfortunately, he had the death of the young of a few. I think it was a young person, young woman, or young man. And Antetokounmpo had his championships. He won the chip. So they're coupled together because they're a great metaphor in the sense that Travis Scott could play with the track. He could have a different flow. He was definitely in the pocket. Giannis just displays aggressiveness and finesse at the same time. And that's where they both meet. They have a similarity between them. They definitely show themselves to be true and recognize the facts of being super competitors. And it's a shame that Travis Scott's career has been so diluted and, made such a mockery. But he's still one of the greats. I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank J-Zone for your comment on this post. And I will see you tomorrow, make sure you're right there. Same time, same place. Maybe not. Maybe not at the same time with the same person. Thank you very much. Take care.